Mark Richards has long been a supporter of schoolboy surfing, and today he was at Newcastle High to present the competition shield that is named after him. The MR Shield for the Australian Schools Surfing Championship was won by the team of 15-year-old Matt Hoy, Marcus Conway, 14, and Gary James, 18. Richards presented the shield to the boys and the school deputy principal, Don Dyer. For their win, the boys each receive a 30-day Australia-wide bus pass, which they plan to use to follow the professional Grand Slam circuit next year. Matt, Gary and Marcus are delighted with their win, which they say they owe to teamwork.
It was hard because there was one school from every state there, and that made it hard because that was the top school from each state. And to beat those guys, you had to surf as a team, and I suppose since we all know each other, that made it all worthwhile.
When the Newcastle City Council elections are held in September, it will have been nearly 2 years since the council was sacked by the then local government minister Kevin Stewart. The minister claimed the council had become unworkable, and Colin Saunders was appointed city administrator. A local government inspector's report into the council's administration recommended that town clerk Barry Lewis be sacked. And further recommendations on restructuring the administration are now being put in place. Amendments to the Greater Newcastle Act include abolishing wards, reducing the number of aldermen to 12, and a change in the procedure for filling extraordinary vacancies. And these will go through next Tuesday. Opinion suggests that the new council will be more workable.
Not only because it'll have an administration complete change, which is excellent the way it's been put into place, but you're going to have naturally smaller numbers of council, you won't have the parochialism of wards, you're going to have them there at the city franchise as elected representatives representing all the people of Newcastle.
The factors in relation to the changes to the administration are still in process, and some of them may still be in process at that stage, but nevertheless they will be handed back to the council in going form, and even though there may be small pockets to be completed, it will be practical for the council to take over at that stage.
Will there be any problems as there were last time?
Well, depending on who the aldermen are that are selected, there's got to be very selective processes adopted in relation to the various groups, and with the right alderman being nominated, or the right people being nominated, the council should be quite productive.
How do you see the election campaigns running?
Well, I can only speak for our own side as far as what's happening, but we're really well and truly organised. We have our policies well formulated, ready to be released, and we're really anxious to go, straining at the leash.
A blanket of grey-brown covers much of the Upper Hunter at the moment, as it does more than 86% of the state. The only relief to the barren landscape being pockets of pasture, green and lush from irrigation. It is both too cold and too dry for many crops to be sown. Paddocks are gradually turning into dust bowls from stock insurgent. Cattle are just managing to hold their own, although rising numbers of drought-affected stock at Valley Cattle Sales tell the story of landholders trying to come to terms with the prospect of a very dry and harsh winter ahead.
A telltale sign of drought in any area is the yarding of baby calves such as these. Farmers faced with no feed have to sell them months before time just to save their mothers.
The sell-off just continues, and the cattle that we see here today become progressively weaker and poorer. In fact, I think we're going to see losses before much longer.
Surprisingly, values are holding up well at sales, although stock and station agent Peter McCallum says they are set to fall as conditions deteriorate. Already the Mirror and Upper Hunter pastures protection areas are drought declared, as well as major parts of the Denman-Singleton district.
I think it's the harshest 6 months that we've seen that I've certainly seen in Scone in my 13 years in the business. We've had extremely hot conditions early on, then we've had extremely cold conditions, plus there's been absolutely no rain. I think some of the district has only in fact recorded about 3 inches of rain for the year.
Well, even though rain is badly needed, rain now combined with continuing cold weather would be of little help. And so the farmers' gamble against the elements is set to turn into a major battle.
the outcome of which will only be determined by Mother Nature and time.
And said, you know, what
The accident happened at about 4 o'clock this morning on Shortland Esplanade. The driver of the car, Gregory Minto, suffered fatal head injuries. The blue panel van was travelling along Shortland Esplanade when it left the road and crashed through this safety railing, landing in the water 7 metres from the roadway. Minto was found floating in the water near the car, wreckage and pieces of the shattered safety railing strewn across the rock flats. 2 passengers, both men aged about 19, were taken to Royal Newcastle Hospital for treatment of minor injuries. The car was eventually winched to the roadway by a heavy-duty crane before work began to repair the safety. Hello, I'm Mark Warren. A young man died today when the blue panel van he was driving left the road near Nobby's Beach. The accident happened about 4 o'clock this morning on Shortland Esplanade.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Hello, I'm Matthew Clark. The chairman of the Public Service Board, Dr. Peter Walensky, was in Newcastle today and says it's too early to see what effects the government's proposed changes will have on the public service.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
ABSA members will be having a separate motion at the end of these motions here. So just to reiterate what Barbara said at the beginning of the meeting. Motion 1 is on this sheet here, in fact motion 2 is on the sheet here as well. It's also important that we've got the commitment from the government to negotiate on the superannuation stop work till midnight 11th June, otherwise we won't be showing the government what else to work for the rest of the day.
17.5% holiday loading and flexi time. They are also worried that the government may try to limit or prevent industrial action in exchange for passing on the 2.3% national wage rise. Union leaders will meet with the Prime Minister, Industrial Relations Minister Ralph Willis and Finance Minister Peter Walsh in Canberra next Wednesday. They will ask for the 3% superannuation deal, but the biggest fight will be over staffing levels. The unions want more public servants, but the government wants less.
No, there's no way we can handle staffing cuts in the departments that we cover. I mean, we cover places like Social Security, Commonwealth Employment Service, Department of Health, Department of Immigration, Foreign Affairs. All those departments and agencies have a high public contact level, and unless the public are prepared to have less of a service, then there's no way that we can have less staff.
At the end of the meeting, public servants went on strike until Monday, bringing all Commonwealth Government offices to a standstill. Another round of stop work meetings will be held in 2 weeks to consider further industrial action. The federal government can expect a bitter fight when it meets with public service unions on Wednesday. Public servants say that any erosion of conditions would only be the thin end of the wedge and are determined to fight the government's moves every step of the way.
Throughout Police Week, the emphasis has been on familiarising the public with the police force, the way it works and its role in the community. Newcastle Police took that theme one step further today by conducting guided tours around their headquarters. First stop was the scientific section, which is called in to assist in cases as diverse as determining the cause of fires, accidents and assisting in murder investigations. The police communications network was also on display to show how patrol cars liaise with the base and other stations. Then it was on to the pistol range, one of the most sophisticated in Australia. Here police officers hone their shooting skills. The computerised range simulates different lighting and noise conditions, creating possible on-the-job situations. But for some of the younger visitors, the open day meant the chance to get inside a police paddy wagon without upsetting mum and dad. And there was always a friendly officer nearby to lend a helping hand. If you missed out today, the good news is Newcastle Police Station is open again tomorrow, and the staff are very willing to cater for every whim. Square egg rings, bow ties, key rings and wine racks are just a few of the products that tempted shoppers at Tara today. For the school students who own companies under the Young Achiever scheme, this was the only chance they had to publicly promote their products, and the race was on to see which groups would take the most orders. Under the scheme, each company operates for 28 weeks, from government to voluntary liquidation. Sales are usually conducted on a one-to-one basis. The companies are now at the height of production, and the students involved say they've already learned a great deal about how small businesses operate.
We've learned so much about everyday life, learning about the management in a small business, and just basically that there's a whole heap more to small business than buying and making and selling a product.
And they've certainly learnt a thing or two about selling techniques.
Oh, and Helen, by the way, would you be interested in buying one of our pine planter boxes? They're only $7.50 and they're lovely to have in any home.
Every year, the Central Coast Antique and Classic Motor Car Club conducts a weekend tour from Doyleson to Shoal Bay. 36 gleaming machines are taking part this year, ranging from a classic 1918 Studebaker to early FJ Holdens and Chevrolet. All of the cars tell a story. Like member of the club, Phil Cornish has restored 3 vehicles, including this 64-year-old Maxwell.
This car was owned by a Mr. Jerry at Williamtown. I found it in his old cow barn. It cost me £20 23 years ago. It is original except for the motor, which has been done up with new pistons, new head gaskets and manifold gaskets. Other than that, it's original.
Do you think it's an obsession?
Oh, I love it, especially driving them.
The drivers of these vehicles are not concerned with speed. The object is to have the cars in the best possible condition, to use them frequently, and perhaps most importantly of all, to enjoy them.
It goes to Rodemar.
This
is
is a good game
McGrady.
of football
Oh, bang!
and held interest
What a
throughout.
tackle!
Newcastle
Across
got
the
an
park,
unusual
Darryl
try on
Williams
the board in the
levelled him,
first
but McGrady
half
got up
to
okay.
Johnny Hunter, who
Heaven
made the
knows
most
how.
of a
Rodemar
pulled
off
leg to
hands.
Kiwi Glenn
Back to
Donaldson.
Good heavens, he's hammied up, lost the ball, and Johnny Hunter's going to score here. Will the ball stay in the in goal? Yes! Newcastle scored. That's the most unusual. Down Brockett shy of the tackler once more.
Scored in the opening
Turn away to
session,
Shane Cooper.
as did New
Wide it goes
Zealanders
to
Mark
Sorensen.
Alaya
Away
and
now to
Pop
Alaya, and
Adrian
he'll walk
Shelton.
through and score. Too many punch it again as big Johnny
It was
Farrell
12
lines up
points
to
to 8
go on
to
and strengthen the
Newcastle
locals.
with the
Turns
goals to
away.
Phil
This is
Williams.
Freddie Grant.
The
He's
second
been
half was
fairly well
evenly
contained all
contested.
day.
The
That
home
was a
side
beaut ball
feeling
away to
like they
Parsons
could
though.
win. They
Parsons
almost
gave it
did.
away to McGrady. Look at the
New
pace on
Zealand
this
scored
man.
3 tries,
Goes
though,
to the
to one in
the
that
under the
period.
arm ball to Whittaker. That is
Rodriguez's try
classic
for
stuff.
Newcastle
And
was a
Rod
real
Whittaker
gem.
manages to stay on his feet, get as close into the goals as he can. Give it away to this man, Alaya.
Step
He's
right
bowled
side
it.
of the
Johnny
Kiwi.
Hunter's missed him. He has in fact Lulawai with him. Parsons has missed him. Glenn Murray's missed him. What a marvellous try this will be if it is one.
That's right.
Back to Lulawai. Lulawai with the experience. Turn away to Dano O'Hara and they've scored.
Top try.
Certainly was. The referee.
The hearing commenced today in Cessnock Court before Magistrate Mr Rex Meehan. A 47-year-old suspended prison officer, Alexander Hodges of Rutherford, is charged on summons that on or about the 28th of January this year, he proposed to one prisoner at the Cessnock Corrective Centre that he murder another prisoner, Anthony Dennison. It's a charge brought under Section 26 of the Crimes Act. In evidence today, Anthony Dennison said that Hodges is considered by inmates at Cessnock to be a strict prison officer. However, he denied assertions by counsel for Hodges, Mr Don Geddes, that the allegation is the result of a conspiracy by him and other prisoners to have the defendant removed from the Cessnock jail. 4 people gave evidence at the opening day of the hearing today, and it was indicated that 7 more are due to give evidence when the hearing resumes on the 9th of September. Hodges was allowed continuing bail.
Gosford City Council has refused to disclose how much it owes for water and sewerage loans, but the Ratepayers Association President Roy Cornford says he believes it is now into the millions of dollars. Concerned that water rates may increase by up to 28% next year, the association collected nearly 4,500 signatures on a petition, which was presented to the Minister today.
We are requesting in this petition that the state and federal governments allocate grants for a particular purpose of paying for our water and sewerage loans, and also that the grants that are given be actually tied to water and sewerage so that they are not spent on anything else.
The Minister said her department was examining ways of helping the Central Coast to finance its extensive works program, but noted that the area is already receiving a large proportion of the state aid available for such work.
One thing one has to realise this area has is 50% of the works that are now being done is already paid for by state government. In fact, I looked at our last figures, and of all of the money spent last year by state government in New South Wales on contributions to water and sewerage, 62% of that money came to the Central Coast.
Earlier in the day, Mrs Crozier was given a similar petition from the City Council itself. But perhaps for Mrs Crozier, the real indicator of the concern felt in this matter was that her official party almost outnumbered the citizens who turned up on the day.
I, as Minister for Local Government, haven't got the finances which I'd like.
More than 4,000 people, many of them tourists, gathered around the Stroud Oval for the annual championships, which have put the sleepy country town on the map. This year there was more to see and do than ever before, with wood chopping, tug-of-war contests and sheepdog trials just some of the attractions. But it was the sight of bricks and rolling pins being hurled that the crowds came to see. The Canadian Consul General, Robert Birchall, and his wife Carol began proceedings, Carol almost injuring a nearby camera crew. The contestants were slightly more accurate. The contest began 26 years ago in Stroud, England, and soon spread to the towns of Stroud in the United States, Canada, and here. It's now an international event, held in each town on the same day. The record for the men's brick throwing is a staggering 111 feet. They don't talk in metres in Stroud. The women throw rolling pins slightly further, and the record for them is 114 feet. By late tomorrow, the results from each of the 4 Strouds will have been compared over the telephone, and the world's champion will be known.
Newcastle City of Leisure was launched at the City Hall today by City Administrator Colin Saunders. The prestige colour booklet was commissioned by the City Council to attract more people to Newcastle and to show the city in its true colours. The old image held by outsiders that Newcastle is just an industrial centre is certainly not the picture presented by this publication. Newcastle is presented as a city with plenty to offer for people who are looking for a place to relax and a place with lots to see. Newcastle's historical sites and gardens are a feature, along with our waterways, beaches and the Hunter Valley. The council's tourist promotions officer believes the booklet will show outsiders that Newcastle has a lot to offer the tourist.
We want to attract tourism, and we have to create our attractions, and we have to promote our attractions. We have it all here, but we have to get out and tell the people. And with dull brochures or with no brochures at all, you can't promote anything. So that is the first step to promote what we have. And
the council has had 12,000 copies printed, and these will go on sale in local newsagents and department stores tomorrow.
Of course,
it's
what we
hoping
need
that
in addition, we need
Novocastrians will buy
products,
the
we need
publication and
operators and
send
all
to
that
friends
sort of
elsewhere,
business too.
and in so doing spread the word that Newcastle is a good place.